I'm LeBar. He's Eisenberg. It's Chair Shot Reality every single week on WrestlingInc.com. And Josh, let's not waste any time because we just can't wait.
It's hot.
It is hot. The top story this week outside of the ring, and that is former best friends now going to be engaged in some more litigation with each other. Of course, we all know CM Punk and Colt Cabana. They were on the they were in the courtroom with WWE Dr. Chris Amon for quite some time as he sued them for what was said about him on Colt Cabana's podcast several years ago over Thanksgiving week. Well, now that is done, and the judge ruled in favor of Cabana and Punk that they did not have to pay anything, and they got out and they won the battle, so to speak. Well, now Colt Cabana is suing CM Punk, claiming that Punk promised to help take care of these extraordinary legal fees, and that Punk is just not living up to his promise. So Colt is suing him under the grounds of that he was acting maliciously and with fraud and with intent to harm Colt Cabana.
Where did this friendship go, Justin? Where did this friendship that was only second to you and me go? Thrown out the window. Who would have thought that you and I would have lasted longer than Punk and Cabana?
Yeah, I mean, they've made far more money than us.
I mean,
now they're spending.
Considering
Now they're spending more money than us
on each other. I think this is just it's just a microcosm of bad communication / bad friendships / CM Punk is a guy that everything he did in the ring, on the microphone, very entertaining. I completely understand the overall obsession with him still years later that he's not even performing in a ring but getting his ass beaten UFC twice. But now it's more of, when will the CM Punk fans realize that this guy's probably just not even a good guy? He's not a good person. He only looks out for himself. He doesn't give a shit about the fans. He doesn't give a shit about his friends. This isn't the first person that has come out and said CM Punk doesn't even speak to him anymore just because he's not a WWE employee. Yeah, we know that guy who said that a couple of months ago. But it says to me that there's far more problems going on in these two guys' lives. I don't like either of them. I have no sides to choose. I've never had good interactions with either of them, and I've probably been blocked on Twitter by both of them because I'm outspoken and vocal about what kind of people they are. But when I look at this, when I see where did it go wrong, they lost, Colt Cabana and CM Punk lost their friendship well before this, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they first started the trial or first started to get to sue Chris Amon. But so I don't know where anybody's going to go from here and how it's going to benefit. But I do think it's one step closer. If CM Punk got to pay more money out of the pocket, how do you fill those pockets back up, Justin?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's a guy that he's not a guy that does things for money. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can walk around with $20 in his pocket and survive. I mean, you'd be much more likely to see him go perform in Madison.
I don't know.
You'd be much more likely to see him go perform in Madison Square Garden just to stick it to Vince McMahon than he would to perform because he needs the money. That's more the CM Punk, I think, way of doing things. But it's interesting. I'll be curious to see what Punk's what his defense is in court. I mean, one defense you'd have to think that's there, or at least an element of it is, Punk could have gone on anybody's podcast in the world to finally break his 9-month silence after walking out on WWE and really tell his whole version of the story. Mm-hmm. And any podcast he would have gone on, that podcast would have immediately had a spike and been able to make more money off of advertisements, to charge people for it. Yeah. But he chose his friend at the time, Colt Cabana, and certainly I'm sure Colt has capitalized and profited off that. I'm sure his podcast numbers went up, his subscriptions went up. He was able to charge more to So I'll be curious how that comes into play. If he's like Colt willingly got involved in this to some degree. That said, if everything that Colt is saying is true, if he can prove what he's saying, which is he has text messages proving that Punk agreed to do this, and while a text message is not a binding contract, it is enough evidence to show, okay, well, Punk made the acknowledgement that he's going to do this, and then if Colt can also prove that Punk decided not to do this now because he's because he has a problem with Colt and he wants to stick it to him, well, that then there's a case here. Any which way, there's
and I find it interesting too because in being a pro Punk guy here, Cabana profited off of Punk for many, many years. I mean, who was he? He was the best friend of WWE superstar CM Punk. So he benefited financially off of just knowing him and being his best friend, whether it was travel, whether it was getting hooked up at live events, whether it was his podcast, whether it was getting booked for indie shows. So it's not like he cannot say thank you to CM Punk, because without CM Punk, I don't think Colt Cabana is shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can feel for Colt Cabana in the sense of even if Punk didn't say, yeah, I'll take care of your legal fees, here's a guy in CM Punk who talked about how much money he made and how he was still willing to walk away from WWE because his pride trumps it all. So if this guy has made 20 or 30 million or whatever the figure is, yeah, certainly this lawsuit took a little dent out of that. But if your buddy in Colt Cabana is not making that kind of money, even if you just want to end your friendship with them and don't ever want to hear him, just write him a check for $500,000 and be done with it and say, I don't want to hear from you again. Why?
Especially if he has the ability to write that and just say, I'm done with you, like, just do that. Like, if you have the luxury to be able to write that big check to avoid another year and a half in court, why wouldn't he do it? Because of his ego?
Well, and Punk doesn't care about PR, I don't think, but since the news has came out this week that Punk is being sued by Cabana, I've seen a lot more negative Punk comments than I have positive, because I think even the CM Punk fans are kind of like, what can we say about this? So,
true.
I mean, this has not done any PR help for CM Punk. Again, not that he's a guy that cares about what people think about him, but it's just worth noting. But I don't know. I mean, do they settle this in the courtroom or do they settle this in the ring?
Get him in the ring. Come on. All in, baby. Let Cabana throw that one piece on. Let Punk put on his trunks one more time. It's Chicago. Tell me that wouldn't sell some tickets.
MSG doesn't need any help, but I'd put it in MSG as well.
There you go.
Plenty more to talk about here on Chairshot Reality. Make sure you binge watch the whole playlist. Leave a comment, subscribe, do what you got to do. We'll talk more about Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. We'll also kind of touch into things as we get closer and closer to SummerSlam about the match that's finally going to happen of Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. Don't go anywhere.